Change in our lives, because from living by the sea at Dawlish, we're suddenly living in a semi-detached little council house in Three Bridges, and the war started, and our lives were concerned with filling sandbags and preparations for war. Canadian troops arrived, which was of course very exciting for us as children. Battle of Britain. I had a bicycle, so I had a paper round, and because I had a bicycle, I was conscripted as a messenger for the what was then the LDV, the Local Defence Volunteers, which became the Home Guard. As well as being a Home Guard, I decided that it might be an idea to learn a bit about first aid. So I joined the St John's Ambulance Brigade as a cadet and trained and got my certificate. In addition to the wartime activities, we were still involved with the church. My mother played the organ in the local church, which had a small pipe organ, so I was also pumping the organ on Sundays. And getting involved in the music as well. The shows again with my father, going and entertaining in the parks and around the village, and also entertaining the troops. We reformed the act, and of course the main change in our material was it was war and soldiers orientated. Crosstalk with comedy about soldiers and the officers. For example, I don't like the Sergeant Major. Oh, why is that? Well, he's got a crown on his sleeve and half a crown in his pocket. And that was the sort of humour that was entertaining.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with England after all, if you only put your backs against the wall. Suppose you have a partridge, well, what is it, bones and beak? Suppose you have a pheasant, it's so high you hear it speak. But a sheep's head with the eyes left in will see you through the week. So there's nothing wrong with England after all.
Because we joined what was called CSE, which was a bit like EDSA, but these were non-professionals, small groups that went to entertain, singers, dancers, whoever would be willing to go and travel and entertain the troops in their camps or in their little garrison theatres.
What was your dad doing during the war? He was still
travelling with our Austin 7, but because of his Italian speaking and his wine connection, he managed to get a job working for the NAFI at Tangmere Aerodrome, which I believe was connected with Chichester Barracks. And there he met an officer who was in charge of the catering and stores, and this officer had a wine shop at Sutton in Surrey. So that was our next move from watching the dogfights over Sussex to Sutton, Surrey, which was a lot nearer London, and of course in the Bomb Alley, so-called. Connected with the church, there was a gentleman who had a drum kit, and he asked my mother if I would like to go and see it. And he'd got what I suppose in them was the basic drum kit of the day, which was a one-sided bass drum, a foot pedal which looked as though it had been made out of a coat hanger, a small Chinese tom-tom, a snare drum, and he showed me what he could play on it, and asked me if I'd like to have a go. Of course, I said I would like to try. Anyway, I did have a go, and he said something to the effect, well, you've got a bit of rhythm, so you might make a drummer one day. And that was that. Never thought anything more about it. And the next thing that happened musically was that we were taken to a show at Hawley at the cinema, which had what they called cine variety, a film and some entertainment. And there was a lady that played what I now know was a vibraphone. And I was fascinated by the sound, and she played along with the cinema organ something like Sleepy Lagoon or a light classical piece. And I was intrigued by the sound. The vibraphone was a novelty instrument used for effects, mostly with the pit drummers. And I was young at that time and hadn't got involved with the jazz side and how that developed with the American bands of Paul Whiteman and of course Lionel Hampton. It was a revelation to us in the very austere sweet rationing, because the Canadian troops would give us chewing gum and candy, chocolate bars that we'd never seen, and trading nylons
for you
as currency, really. But it was another change in our lives. We'd met foreign people that came, and at the time they were training for what was to come, which was the invasion of Europe. And being in danger, we had a Morrison's shelter, which was an cast iron table, which we had in the living room, which we slept under. And then I would be up at about 7 a.m. to do the paper round before I had to catch a train to East Grinstead for school. And this is with a lot of damage being done to the railways and getting the trains changed. And my life changed in that I started at Sutton Grammar School and became involved with the Army Cadets. And also my mother, in her wisdom, thought for the act it would be good if I could tap dance. So she asked me if I would go to the Sylvia Bryant Stage School at Wellington for tap dancing classes. I said, oh no, I don't want to go there. They think sissies go dancing. And then I was told that there were 150 girls there and 4 boys. And my sister was already doing dance classes at the Sylvia Bryant Stage School. So I started and became tap dancer, did ballet lessons, and my mother played piano and sang. We had the 3 Grahams doing the comedy material, and me also tap dancing now, and with girls from the dancing school. So the entertainment side was building. When I was at Sylvia Bryant's Stage School at Wellington, she was an agent for child actors and performers for the Italia Conti School. It turned out that there was a couple of days' work on a film of Itmar, which was the biggest radio show at the time, and they wanted a few child actors. So I went home with my father. He took me up to Gainsborough Studios, and that was my big chance to be in a full-length feature film with one of the biggest stars of the day, Tommy Hanley. And Jack Train was in the film, who, to my surprise, remembered my father from his days pre-First World War.
Dancing and music. Just like cup of tea, Sam. Remind me to open an operatic class, will you? 10 guineas extra.
Sure.
Wait till they see me play South, eh?
This will be your office now, Mr. Henley.
What, book 'em? Sam, obliterate that scoundrel's name at once.
Sure.
The moment I saw it, I said to myself, oh no! Well, that'll be all. Ta-ta for now, students. Hooray, silence, for it's time bomb the mayor. Friends, humans, pupils, your future is before you. Remember, the stars of today are the night lights of tomorrow. Place yourself in my hands. I swear by my chain of office, shine the chain, Sam, that each and every one of you will ascend the ladder of fame wrong by wrong. Give yourselves to art. Art with a capital R. Only another 8 quid and you'll have your name in lights.
Right.
Now run along, students. Practice your party pieces, loosen your larynx, tighten your tights, and report at 10:30 in the morning when we start our classes.
He's a great guy,
Will you step into my parlour? Remind me to get some etchings, Sam.
Well, at school, a very good friend of mine who was a very good guitar and bass player, he said, well, let's get a band together. And I said, but I don't play anything. But what attracted us at the time was Spike Jones, which is a comedy band. So we got a group together called the Jailbirds, which was me on washboard and motor horns and doing the Spike Jones bit and cowbells. He would play rhythm guitar. Another friend of mine who was a mate at school, Smith, he didn't play anything, but he said he could play the piano if we helped him. So I stuck labels on the keys of the notes he had to hit, and we formed the Jailbirds, and with great success played the local theatres. And then, to my surprise, I was promoted from being a corporal in the Army Cadets to being a sergeant major, marching and training the cadets. My sister, who was a bit of a rebel at the time, she would get a few of her friends to hide round behind trees when we were marching to church parade and jump out and shout at my men in the marching behind me, and I would say, eyes front, keep in step, no whistling. She was evacuated, my sister, to Dewsbury in Yorkshire because the war situation was getting worse. And as it progressed to the flying bombs and the rockets, we all realised our vulnerability. And going to school on a few occasions, I've lied down in the road, but on the curbside, to avoid the blast of an exploding flying bomb. It was decided that I would do well in the shipping office in the city. So off I went on the train every day to the City of London, to the Baltic Exchange. The company that I worked for, it was called Dodwell and Son, and they were Far East importers of rubber and tea and shipping agents, really. And my job was the usual one of doing the stamp book and making the tea and running errands, which I loved because it meant I had to go out around the city delivering messages and office material. But the highlight for me was lunchtime, when I used to run as fast as I could down to St Paul's, where there was a band, one of the military bands or a concert band or a brass band playing in front of St Paul's. So my lunch hour was spent trying to find where I could go and listen to music and watch the percussion player, which fascinated me. Attitudes to each other changed, the survival and the will to win the war. And I did my school certificate exam in a shelter by running out every time the siren went. And I think that's the only reason I've got the school certificate, because I was able to ask my friends what the answer to the next question was. But I wasn't interested in office work. I could see then that I was interested in music, and that's the road I wanted to go down. I was late 17 at the time, so as soon as my 18th birthday came in July, I was called up. So I'm finding it slow this morning. I don't know why. It's my late night.
Have a drink, yeah.
No, that's right.